The discovery. The picture-perfect life. My name is Maya Chun, and I thought I had everything figured out. At 28 years old, I own one of the most successful wedding photography studios in Seattle. My work had been featured in Brides magazine 3 times. Celebrities flew me across the country to capture their special moments. I had built my business from nothing, starting with a second-hand camera and a dream when I was just 21. But my greatest achievement, I believed, was finding true love with James Bradford. James was everything I thought I wanted in a partner. Tall, handsome, successful. He owned Bradford Properties, one of the largest real estate development companies in the Pacific Northwest. When he walked into a room, people noticed. When he smiled at me, I felt like the luckiest woman alive. We met 2 years ago at a charity gala. I was there photographing the event, and he was one of the major donors. He spilled champagne on my camera bag and insisted on buying me dinner to apologize. That dinner turned into breakfast the next morning, and we had been inseparable ever since. The engagement story. 6 months ago, James proposed to me in the most romantic way possible. He rented out the Seattle Aquarium after hours. As I walked through the underwater tunnel with jellyfish floating above us like stars, he got down on one knee. The ring was a stunning 3-carat diamond that caught the blue light and sparkled like the ocean itself. "Maya Chun, you captured my heart the moment I met you," he said, his green eyes locked on mine. "Will you let me be in your frame forever?" Of course I said yes. How could I not? He knew exactly what to say to a photographer's heart. The wedding was planned for spring, just 3 weeks away. We had booked the historic Thornawood Castle, a stunning lakeside venue with gardens that would bloom perfectly for our ceremony. As a wedding photographer myself, I knew exactly what I wanted. Every detail was planned to perfection. I should have known that when something seems too perfect, it usually is. The surprise that changed everything. It was a Tuesday afternoon in March when my world fell apart. I had finished a morning engagement photo shoot early and decided to surprise James at his office. I wanted to take him to lunch and go over the final seating arrangements for the wedding reception. I brought his favorite Italian sandwiches from that small deli he loved downtown. I even wore the blue dress he always complimented me in. I was excited, happy, completely unaware that my life was about to shatter into a million pieces. The Bradford Properties office was on the 20th floor of a modern glass building in downtown Seattle. The receptionist, Kelly, knew me well and waved me through with a smile. "He's in the conference room with his partners," she said cheerfully. "Big meeting today, but I'm sure he'll be happy to see you." I walked down the hallway, my heels clicking softly on the polished floor. The conference room door was slightly open, and I could hear voices inside. I was about to knock when I heard my name. "So James, 3 weeks until the big day. Are you really going through with this wedding to Maya?" That was Robert Chun, one of James's business partners. No relation to me, despite sharing the last name. I froze, my hand raised to knock, something in Robert's tone making me pause. "Of course I am," James replied, and my heart warmed for a moment. But then he continued, and his voice carried a coldness I had never heard before. "I've invested too much time in this plan to back out now." The cruel truth revealed. "Plan? What plan?" I pressed myself against the wall beside the door, my heart suddenly pounding. "Dude, I still can't believe you're doing this," another voice said. That was David Park, James's closest friend since college. "It's savage, even for you. The girl thinks you actually love her." Laughter erupted in the room. Cold, mocking laughter that made my blood freeze. "Love her?" James's voice was filled with contempt. "Please. This has nothing to do with love. This is about making Marcus Chin pay for what he did to Emily." "Marcus? My older brother. What did he have to do with any of this?" "Your sister still hasn't gotten over that rejection, has she?" Robert asked. "Would you?" James snapped. "Marcus humiliated Emily in front of everyone at her own birthday party 5 years ago. He announced he was leaving her for someone else. My sister fell into depression for 2 years. She still goes to therapy because of that bastard." I felt dizzy. I remembered that night. Marcus had been dating Emily Bradford for about a year, but he had fallen in love with Sarah, his now wife. Yes, his timing was terrible. Yes, he should have handled it privately. But Marcus wasn't cruel. He was just young and stupid and scared. "So you decided to do the same thing to his sister?" David said. "That's some next-level revenge, man." "Exactly," James said, and I could hear the smile in his voice. "Maya has no idea. She thinks I'm madly in love with her. She's been planning this wedding like it's her dream come true. She even designed special invitations with our photos on them. Pathetic, really. My hand clutched the bag of sandwiches so hard the paper crinkled loudly. I held my breath, praying they hadn't heard the full extent of his plan. "Walk us through it again," Robert said, sounding entertained. "I want to make sure I have my camera ready for this." "It's simple," James explained, his voice filled with satisfaction. "Everything proceeds normally. Maya walks down the aisle in her expensive wedding dress. She'll look beautiful, I'll give her that. The girl knows how to present herself. Always the photographer's eye," David laughed. "The ceremony starts. Everyone is watching. All of Seattle's elite will be there. I made sure to invite everyone who matters in this city. Maya's entire client list, all her professional contacts, even that magazine editor who featured her work." My stomach turned. I suddenly understood. This wasn't just about rejecting me. This was about destroying my reputation, my business, everything I had built. And then, Robert prompted. "Then, when the officiant asks if I take Maya to be my wife, I say no." James paused, clearly enjoying the moment. "I'll have a whole speech prepared about how I could never marry the sister of the man who destroyed my sister's life. About how this was all a lesson for her brother. Let Marcus Chin feel what it's like to watch someone he loves be humiliated in public." "What about Maya?" David asked. "She seems genuinely nice. Don't you feel bad at all?" There was a long pause. For a moment, I hoped. Maybe James had some small piece of conscience left. "She's collateral damage," James finally said, and those 3 words broke something inside me. "Besides, she'll recover. She's tough. Built a business from nothing, right? She can rebuild her reputation too. Eventually." More laughter filled the room. "The mistress in the shadows." "What about Sophie?" Robert asked. "Is she still okay with this plan?" "Sophie? Sophie Lane? My wedding planner?" "Sophie understands perfectly," James said. "She's been very patient these past 6 months, playing the professional wedding planner while I play the devoted fiancé. After the wedding disaster, we'll wait a respectful few months, then start dating publicly. By then, everyone will have forgotten about Maya." The room spun. Sophie Lane was a friend. Or so I thought. We had spent countless hours together planning every detail of this wedding. She had held my hand when I cried over choosing between roses and peonies. She had helped me find the perfect dress. And all along, she had been sleeping with my fiancé. "You've been seeing Sophie this whole time?" David asked, impressed. "How does Maya not know?" "Maya is always busy with her photography business," James said dismissively. "She works late nights, travels for destination weddings. She barely notices when I'm gone. Plus, she trusts me completely. That's the beauty of it. She never suspected a thing." "That's cold, man," Robert said, but he was laughing. "Remind me never to get on your bad side." "Just remember," James added, "not a word to anyone. The surprise only works if Maya walks into this completely blind. I want to see the exact moment her face realizes what's happening. I want to capture that moment of absolute devastation." Breaking point. I couldn't listen anymore. My vision blurred with tears as I stumbled backward, away from that door, away from those voices, away from the man I thought I knew. I made it to the bathroom just in time before my legs gave out. I locked myself in a stall and let the tears fall silently, one hand pressed against my mouth to keep from making any sound. 2 years. 2 years of my life with a man who saw me as nothing more than a tool for revenge. Every kiss was a lie. Every "I love you" was an act. Every moment of our relationship was just part of his cruel plan. And Sophie, God, Sophie had been in on it the whole time. Every meeting where we planned my dream wedding was her helping James prepare my public humiliation. I don't know how long I sat there. 10 minutes. 20. Long enough for my tears to stop and something else to take their place. Anger. Cold, clear, focused anger. The decision to fight back. I stood up, washed my face, and looked at myself in the mirror. My mascara had run, my eyes were red, but underneath the devastation, I saw something else. Strength. I had built a business from nothing. I had worked multiple jobs while going to photography school. I had competed in a male-dominated industry and won. I wasn't going to let James Bradford destroy me. If he wanted to play games, I would play too. But I would play to win. I took out my phone and opened the voice recording app. Then I walked back to that conference room. The door was still slightly open, and they were still talking, laughing about their clever plan. I recorded everything. Every word, every laugh, every detail of their scheme. When I had enough, I quietly left the building. Kelly waved goodbye cheerfully, completely unaware that I had just heard the end of my relationship. In my car, I sat with the engine running, staring at the recording on my phone. This was evidence. But evidence alone wasn't enough. If James wanted to humiliate me in front of everyone who mattered in Seattle, then I needed to be smart. I needed to be strategic. I needed to turn his plan into his own destruction. The beginning of my plan. I drove to my studio, locked the door, and pulled out my laptop. As a photographer, I understood the power of images, of presentation, of telling a story. And I was about to tell the most important story of my life. The story of how James Bradford tried to destroy Maya Chan, and how she destroyed him instead. I opened a new folder on my desktop and named it Project Justice. Then I started planning. 3 weeks. I had 3 weeks to gather evidence, build my case, and prepare my counterattack. 3 weeks to make sure that when the wedding day came, I would be the one walking away victorious. James wanted to see the moment of my devastation. Instead, I would give him his own. I picked up my phone and called my best friend Diana, a lawyer who specialized in contract disputes. "Diana," I said when she answered, "I need your help, and I need you to keep this completely confidential." "Maya? What's wrong? You sound strange." "Everything is wrong," I admitted, "but I'm going to make it right. Can you meet me in an hour?" "Of course. Are you okay?" I looked at my reflection in the dark window of my studio. For the first time in hours, I smiled. "I will be," I promised. "I will be." The war had just begun, and James Bradford had no idea he had already lost. The master plan. Gathering the team. Diana arrived at my studio exactly 1 hour later. She was carrying 2 coffee cups and a box of donuts, which meant she knew something serious was happening. Diana Martinez had been my best friend since college. We met in a photography class where she was the only person who appreciated my artistic vision. Now she was one of the top contract lawyers in Seattle. I locked the studio door behind her and pulled down all the blinds. "Okay, you're scaring me," Diana said, setting down the coffee. "What happened? Did James do something?" "Sit down," I said quietly, "and listen to this." I played her the recording from James's office. I watched her face change from confusion to shock to pure fury as she listened to every word. When it finished, Diana was silent for a long moment. Then she spoke, her voice deadly calm. "That absolute piece of garbage," she said. "Maya, we're calling off this wedding right now. You don't have to go through with any of it." "No," I said firmly. "We're not calling it off." Diana stared at me. "What do you mean? You can't seriously still marry him after this." "I'm not going to marry him," I explained. "But I'm not going to run away either. James has a plan to humiliate me. I'm going to have a better plan to expose him." Understanding slowly dawned on Diana's face. A smile started to form. "Oh, Maya, tell me everything." The strategic planning session. We spent the next 3 hours planning every detail. Diana pulled out her laptop and started taking notes like we were preparing for a court case. In a way, we were. "First, we need to secure your assets," Diana said. "Do you have joint accounts with James?" "No, thank goodness. I always kept my business finances separate. But he has a key to my apartment and access to my studio. Change all the locks tomorrow. Tell him you're doing a security upgrade after a break-in in the neighborhood. He won't question it." I nodded, writing everything down. "Second, we need more evidence. The recording is good, but we need everything. Emails, text messages, proof of his affair with Sophie. How do I get that without him knowing?" Diana smiled mischievously. "Does James use the same password for everything?" "Yes. He thinks he's so smart, but his password is literally his birthday backwards. Amateur mistake. Tonight, while he's sleeping, get into his laptop and phone. Screenshot everything. Upload it to a secure cloud drive. I'll set one up for you." "What about Sophie?" I asked. "I need proof of their relationship. Do you know where she lives?" "Yes. She lives in an apartment in Capitol Hill. She told me once that she works from home most mornings." Diana thought for a moment. "Do you still have access to the wedding planning portal you share with her?" "Yes. We both use the same platform to coordinate everything." "Perfect. Check her calendar on there. Find out when she's meeting with James. Then we follow them and document everything. Playing the perfect bride." The hardest part of the plan was pretending everything was normal. For the next 2 weeks, I had to be the excited, loving bride-to-be while my heart was full of anger and betrayal. The morning after discovering the truth, James came over to my apartment with flowers and croissants from my favorite bakery. "Good morning, beautiful," he said, kissing my cheek. "3 weeks until you become Mrs. Bradford." I forced myself to smile and hug him back, even though my skin crawled at his touch. "I can't wait," I lied smoothly. "Everything is coming together perfectly. Speaking of which, I was thinking we should do a final meeting with Sophie next week. Make sure all the details are locked in." "Sophie, the mistress pretending to be my wedding planner." "That's a great idea," I said sweetly. "I want everything to be absolutely perfect for our big day." If only he knew what perfect actually meant. That night, after James fell asleep in my bed, I carefully took his phone from the nightstand. My hands were shaking as I typed in his password. It worked. What I found was worse than I imagined. The evidence pile grows. There were hundreds of messages between James and Sophie. They went back 8 months, even before James proposed to me. I scrolled through them, screenshotting everything, my stomach turning with each new message. "James, had dinner with Maya tonight. She spent an hour talking about flowers. God, she's boring. Sophie, poor baby. Just a few more months, and you won't have to pretend anymore. James, the look on her face when I reject her is going to make it all worth it. Sophie, I wish I could see Marcus Chen's face when he realizes what you did to his precious little sister." There were photos too. Sophie in lingerie, sent at times when James told me he was working late. Hotel receipts. Dinner reservations at romantic restaurants while I was out of town photographing weddings. But the worst was a video. James had filmed himself at my apartment, walking around with his phone, narrating like a documentary. "Here's where Maya keeps her wedding binder," he said in the video, pointing at my carefully organized planner. "She has every detail mapped out. Seating charts, timeline, even backup plans for ring. She has no idea that the only plan that matters is mine." He laughed, and the sound made me want to throw his phone against the wall. But I didn't. I uploaded the video to Diana's secure cloud drive, then carefully placed his phone back exactly where he left it. Following the trail. 2 days later, according to Sophie's calendar on the wedding planning portal, she had blocked off her entire afternoon with just the word private marked. That same afternoon, James texted me saying he had a long client meeting and would be unreachable. Diana and I sat in her car outside Sophie's apartment building, both wearing sunglasses and baseball caps like amateur detectives. "I feel ridiculous," Diana muttered. "You look ridiculous too," I replied. "But it's working. Look." James's silver BMW pulled up to the building. He got out carrying a bag from an expensive boutique. Sophie met him at the entrance, and they kissed. Not a friendly kiss. A deep, passionate kiss right there on the street where anyone could see. I lifted my camera and started shooting. As a professional photographer, I knew exactly how to capture the moment. The lighting was perfect. The angle was clear. There was no doubt what was happening in these photos. They went inside together. We waited. "How long do you think they'll be?" Diana asked. Based on James's lies about his meeting length, probably 3 hours. What kind of client meeting lasts 3 hours? The kind where he's the client and she's providing very personal services. Diana snorted despite the serious situation. We waited for 2.5 hours. When they finally emerged, James's hair was messy and Sophie was wearing his jacket. More photos. More evidence. "Got it," I said, reviewing the images on my camera. "These are perfect." The discovery of financial betrayal. While gathering evidence of the affair, Diana started digging into something else that made my blood boil even hotter. "Maya," she said over the phone one evening, "I need you to check your business credit card statements. Specifically, the card you gave James for wedding expenses." My heart sank. "What did you find?" "Just check." "I'll wait." I pulled up my business account online. The credit card James was supposed to use only for wedding deposits showed charges I didn't recognize. Jewelry stores. Expensive restaurants I'd never been to. A weekend trip to Victoria, British Columbia that happened when I was photographing a wedding in California. "Diana, this is thousands of dollars. $12,467, to be exact," Diana said grimly. "He's been using your business credit to fund his affair with Sophie." I felt like I'd been punched. "Can we use this?" "Absolutely. This is fraud." He had authorization only for wedding-related expenses. Everything else is theft. I can build a case that will bury him. Do it, I said. Document everything. Creating the presentation. With 2 weeks until the wedding, I started building what would become my masterpiece. Not a wedding album, but an evidence portfolio. I spent my nights at the studio, working on a presentation that would play on the big screen at Thornwood Castle. The screen that was supposed to show our love story slideshow during the reception. Instead, it would show the truth. I organized everything chronologically. The recording from his office played first, with subtitles for clarity. Then the text messages between James and Sophie, displayed as elegant slides with timestamps. The photos of them together, professionally composed and beautifully lit, because even in revenge, I couldn't help being an artist. The financial records came next, each fraudulent charge highlighted in red with clear notes about what it actually paid for. Hotel rooms, jewelry for Sophie, romantic dinners while I was working, and finally, that video of James mocking me in my own apartment, his cruel laughter echoing through the presentation. I set it all to music. Not romantic music, but something powerful and dramatic. The kind of music you'd hear in a movie when the hero finally defeats the villain. Diana watched the final version with tears in her eyes. Maya, this is devastating. This is perfect. This is going to destroy him. That's the idea, I said calmly. The fake wedding preparations continue. Meanwhile, I continued playing my role perfectly. James and I had our final cake tasting. We confirmed the final guest count, 320 people, all of Seattle's elite. We did our engagement photo shoot for the programs, and I smiled brilliantly in every shot. Sophie met with us weekly to review details. She would sit across from me with her fake professional smile, discussing flower arrangements and seating charts, while I knew she had been in James's bed the night before. Maya, you're going to be such a beautiful bride, Sophie said during one meeting, touching my hand with fake sincerity. I wanted to throw my wine in her face. Instead, I smiled warmly. Thank you so much, Sophie. You've made this whole process so easy. I couldn't have done any of this without you. The irony was delicious. She thought she was fooling me. She had no idea I was 3 steps ahead, recruiting the technical team. The presentation was ready, but I needed to make sure it would play at exactly the right moment. I couldn't risk James or Sophie discovering it beforehand. I reached out to my assistant, Kevin, who had been helping me with photography for the past year. He was a tech genius who could hack into anything. Kevin, I need your help with something unusual, I said, meeting him at a coffee shop far from my studio. Unusual how? He asked cautiously. I need you to help me take control of the audiovisual system at my wedding venue, without anyone knowing. Kevin stared at me. That's pretty specific. What's going on? I showed him a few of the screenshots from James's phone. Not the most personal ones, just enough to show the betrayal. His eyes widened. Holy hell, Maya. He's trash. Agreed. Will you help me? Absolutely. That guy deserves what's coming to him. Kevin spent the next week coordinating with the AV company that Thornwood Castle used. He convinced them he was doing a technical test of their system. He loaded my presentation onto their server under an encrypted file name. He programmed it to override whatever was supposed to play during the reception. It's all set, he told me the week before the wedding. At 7 p.m., right when the reception slideshow is supposed to start, your presentation will play instead. They won't be able to stop it. I've locked the controls with a password only you and I know. Kevin, you're a genius. I'm just a guy who hates cheaters, he said. This is going to be epic. The final week. In the last week before the wedding, I handled the final details of my escape plan. Because I wasn't just exposing James. I was leaving Seattle entirely. I had been offered a position months ago to open a photography branch in New York City for a major magazine. At the time, I turned it down because of James. Now I called them back. Is the position still available? I asked. For you, Maya? Always. When can you start? The Monday after this weekend. I signed the contract electronically and arranged for movers to pack up my apartment the day after the wedding. Everything I owned would be on a truck to New York before James even knew what hit him. Diana helped me close out my Seattle studio. We transferred my client list to another photographer I trusted. We filed all the legal paperwork. By the end of the week, I had no ties left to this city except the wedding itself. The rehearsal dinner deception. The night before the wedding, We held the rehearsal dinner at an upscale restaurant overlooking Elliott Bay. 50 of our closest friends and family gathered to celebrate. My brother Marcus was there with his wife Sarah. He pulled me aside during cocktail hour. "Maya, are you sure about this?" he asked quietly. "James seems great, but something feels off. I can't explain it. Brothers have good instincts. If only I had listened to him sooner." "Everything is fine, Marcus," I assured him. "Tomorrow is going to be perfect. Trust me." James gave a toast during dinner, talking about how much he loved me, how lucky he was to have found me, how tomorrow would be the beginning of our beautiful life together. Everyone clapped. Some people cried happy tears. Sophie, sitting at a table in the back, smiled secretly into her wine glass. I smiled too, but for different reasons. "To tomorrow," James said, raising his glass to me. "May it be everything we've planned for." "To tomorrow," I echoed, clinking my glass against his. "It's going to be unforgettable." If only he knew how right I was. The night before. That night, James wanted to stay over, but I insisted on tradition. "It's bad luck for the groom to see the bride before the wedding," I said, kissing him at my door. "Go home. Get a good night's sleep. Tomorrow is our big day. I can't wait to marry you, Maya-chan," he said, and he actually looked sincere. He was such a good actor. "I can't wait either," I replied. And I meant it. I couldn't wait to see his face when everything fell apart. After he left, I sat in my empty apartment surrounded by packed boxes. Diana came over with a bottle of wine. "Last chance to back out," she said, though we both knew I wouldn't. "Not a chance. Tomorrow, James Bradford gets exactly what he deserves." We clinked glasses and drank to justice. In 12 hours, the wedding would begin. In 12 hours, James would learn that karma doesn't just exist in stories. In 12 hours, Maya-chan would show Seattle exactly what happens when you underestimate a woman who's been hurt. I went to bed early and slept peacefully for the first time in 3 weeks. Tomorrow, I would wake up and prepare for the most important performance of my life. Not as a bride, but as a woman taking back her power. The grand finale. The morning of Judgment Day. I woke up at 6 a.m. on my wedding day. Not because I was nervous, but because I wanted to savor every moment of what was about to happen. The morning sun streamed through my bedroom window. It was a perfect spring day, exactly the kind of weather I had hoped for when planning this wedding months ago. Back when I thought it would be the happiest day of my life. Now it would be something better. The day of my victory. Diana arrived at 7 with coffee and bagels. She was already dressed in her maid of honor gown, a beautiful sage green dress that complemented my wedding colors perfectly. "How are you feeling?" she asked, studying my face carefully. "Powerful," I answered honestly. "Ready. Your brother called me last night. He's worried about you. Says you seem too calm." I smiled. Marcus always could read me, but he doesn't need to worry. After today, everything will be fine. My hair and makeup team arrived at 8. I had hired the best in Seattle, the same artists who worked on fashion shoots for major magazines. They transformed me into a vision. My dress was a custom Vera Wang, ivory silk with delicate lace sleeves and a cathedral train. It cost $30,000, and James had insisted on paying for it. I almost felt bad about how good I looked. Almost. "Maya, you're absolutely stunning," my makeup artist said, stepping back to admire her work. "James is going to lose his mind when he sees you." "That's the plan," I said, and Diana snorted into her mimosa. Arriving at Thornawood Castle. Thornawood Castle sat on the edge of American Lake, a Gothic-style mansion built in the early 1900s. With its turrets, stained glass windows, and sprawling gardens, it was the most romantic venue in Washington state. It was also the most expensive, costing us $50,000 just for the venue rental. Well, costing James. I had insisted he pay for the venue as his contribution to the wedding. The irony was beautiful. He was paying a fortune for the location of his own downfall. I arrived in a vintage Rolls-Royce at exactly 2 p.m. The ceremony was scheduled for 3. Guests were already arriving, dressed in their finest clothes, ready to witness what they thought would be a fairy tale wedding. Kevin, my technical assistant, met me at a side entrance. "Everything is set," he whispered. "The presentation is loaded and ready. At 7 p.m. during the reception, it will automatically play. No one can stop it without the password." "Perfect. And the backup plan?" "Also ready. I have the file on 3 separate USB drives hidden in different locations." If anything goes wrong with the main system, I can plug in manually. You're amazing, Kevin. Go get him, boss, he said with a grin. The ceremony begins. At exactly 3 p.m., the string quartet began playing. The 320 guests rose to their feet. Through the open doors of the castle, I could see James standing at the altar in his custom tuxedo, his best man David beside him. James looked confident, excited, like a hunter about to complete the perfect trap. He had no idea he was the prey. My father walked me down the aisle. He squeezed my arm and whispered, "You look beautiful, sweetheart. Are you happy?" "I'm exactly where I need to be, Dad," I answered. The walk down that aisle felt like it took forever and no time at all. I saw faces I knew, clients whose weddings I had photographed, business partners, society, people who would gossip about this day for years. I saw Sophie sitting in the back, wearing a lavender dress and a secret smile. I saw Robert and David, James's partners in crime, smirking like they were watching a comedy show. And I saw Marcus, my brother, watching me with worried eyes. He knew something was wrong. Brothers always know. But mostly I saw James. And the look on his face was everything I needed. He thought he had won. He thought I was walking into his trap completely unaware. His eyes gleamed with anticipation and barely concealed cruelty. "Oh, James, you have no idea what's coming." The ceremony continues. The officiant, an elderly minister named Reverend Thompson, smiled warmly at us. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to witness the union of James Bradford and Maya Chun in holy matrimony." I stood there, looking perfect, looking peaceful, while my heart was racing with anticipation. The ceremony proceeded normally. Readings were read. Songs were sung. Everything was traditional, beautiful, exactly as planned. Finally, we reached the vows. "James Bradford," Reverend Thompson said, "do you take Maya Chun to be your lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold, from this day forward, for better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish, until death do you part?" This was it. This was the moment James had planned for. The moment he would say, "I don't," and humiliate me in front of everyone. I could see him preparing, taking a breath, ready to deliver his cruel rejection. But I was faster. "Actually," I said clearly, my voice carrying through the stunned silence. "Before James answers that, I have something I need to say." The crowd murmured in confusion. This wasn't part of the program. Reverend Thompson looked bewildered. James's face went pale. "Maya, what are you doing?" I turned to face the audience, turning my back on James. When I spoke, my voice was strong and clear. "I want to thank you all for coming today. You're here because you care about me, about James, or about both of us. You came to witness what you thought would be a celebration of love." I paused, letting the suspense build. I was a performer now, and this was my stage. But love requires honesty. And there hasn't been much honesty in this relationship. "Maya," James hissed behind me. "Stop this right now." I ignored him. "I want to tell you all a story. About 3 weeks ago, I went to surprise my fiancé at his office. I brought him lunch. I was excited to see him, but I overheard something I wasn't supposed to hear. The crowd was completely silent now. You could hear a pin drop in that massive castle hall. I heard James talking to his friends about his plan for today. His plan to say "I don't" when asked if he would marry me. His plan to humiliate me in front of all of you as revenge against my brother for something that happened 5 years ago. Gasps echoed through the room. People started looking at each other, confused and shocked. "Maya, you're making a scene," James said, his voice shaking now. "You're embarrassed, I understand, but—" "Oh, I'm not embarrassed, James," I said, turning to face him. "You should be." The truth revealed. I pulled out my phone and held it up. "I have a recording. Would you like to hear it?" James lunged for my phone, but Marcus was suddenly there, blocking him. My brother might not have known the full plan, but his protective instincts kicked in instantly. "Don't touch her," Marcus said dangerously. "I think everyone should hear this," I said. I pressed play. James's voice filled the castle, crystal clear through the sound system Kevin had connected to. If it wasn't to spite that hypocrite Marcus Chun, would I have gone to such lengths to chase after Maya? I've got it all planned out. On the wedding day, when everyone's watching, when the priest asks if I take her, I'll just say I don't. His voice continued, laying out his entire cruel plan while the audience listened in growing horror. I want to watch that forever calm face of hers crumble. Watch her cry. That would be more thrilling than any business deal. When the recording ended, the silence was deafening. Then chaos erupted. "Oh my God," someone said. "That's disgusting," another voice called out. James's face had gone from pale to bright red. That recording is taken out of context. Maya is clearly disturbed. She's been acting strange for weeks. "Really?" I said calmly. "Then how do you explain Sophie?" Every head turned to the back of the room where Sophie sat frozen in her seat. "Sophie Lane, my wedding planner. Also your mistress for the past 8 months. Sophie's face went white. "Maya, I don't know what you think you know, but," James started. "I have photos," I said. "I have text messages. I have hotel receipts. I have 8 months of evidence of your affair. Should I share those too?" The final blow.